Does it start? Okay, now we're started. Welcome, everyone. I'm Elaine,
And I'm Jackie.
and today we have a special topic for you. And I'll give it to you right now. It says, I want what I want, and I want it now.
That's
What
nothing
do
that
you
we
think
ever
about
feel.
that?
Nothing that we ever feel, right? The first thing when you said that you wanted to talk about that today, I said, "Hey, that's really a mixed blessing to get what you want when you want it, because what we think we want and the way we see it isn't always the way it shows up.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are other things
There's
that
other
come with what we want. There's other
factors.
factors, exactly, yeah.
And so it really gets down to what is it that you really want, and why is it that you really want it?
Mm-hmm.
What's driving this want? I mean, is it fear, or is it, is it something your heart wants? I mean, and it's almost like, are you coming from a place of lack, or
And
or
is
knowingness?
is it what you really want?
Well,
Or-
that's the big
because
question.
like when we say, I want $1 million. Okay, I'll give you $1 million on a desert island,
Yeah.
no people around, no food. So you've got your $1 million. You happy? Well, that's not what I meant. Well,
Right.
what about the $1 million? What would the $1 million get you? And with money, we've sort of gotten used to doing that exercise.
Right.
But I think with other stuff,
Like a relationship,
yeah.
or I want a healthy body,
Mhm.
or lose weight, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There is such a, money is actually pretty easy. It's like, okay, all the classes, all the training have said you, okay, you want money, what are you gonna do with it? What's it gonna give you? Is it gonna give you freedom? Is it gonna give you security? There's all these things. It's been pretty well documented.
Sure.
But what about a relationship? What do you want in your relationship? It's so easy. We all have illusion in our chart. It's where Neptune lives, and it's very easy, depending on where it's located in your chart, to have a particular theme that you sort of like see the ideal and not the reality.
Can I ask you, what made you think of this? What do you want now? That brought this up?
Well, I've been thinking about this whole thing about what do I want in relation to selling the businesses or keeping the businesses, or, and it's been driving me nuts, because it's like, okay, I gotta do this, and I realized that, wait a minute, what is it that's really driving this? What is
Mhm.
it I really want? And what I really want is to be free to do what I wanna do.
Ah,
And then,
yeah.
but see, this leads into another factor, because then there's the whole money piece. Okay, if I give up this, where's the money gonna come from? So then, the next one is, I wanna have lots of customers, so that I can be supported, so I can do what I want. And where are those customers gonna come from? So I'm working with Karen, to help set up this service, for us. It's like, well, I wanna get that going now, it's like, now wait a minute. I'm driving myself nuts and
Mhm.
putting myself under a lot of pressure, because I want something that is from a fear. A
Yeah.
fear of not being free,
Mhm.
and not being able to live what my heart and my soul wants me to do.
So it sounds to me like, and I found this for myself, if we are doing what we love, then we may be doing the same amount of work, we may have
Right.
the same amount of time scheduled or even more, but if it's something that we love, something that we're doing it because we want to do it, it doesn't feel like work, it doesn't feel like somebody else's demands.
Right. It was
Coming
like
on
the
to
last couple of days I had tax classes I was supposed to go to keep my license up. And now, I thought about this a lot. It's like I kept questioning myself. Well, do I want to get up early in the morning and be there all day with all these nice people, listening to all this bad news? And it's like, no. So I only went half days, and that was a stretch for me, because before it's like, I gotta be there. I said I was going to do this. I paid for it. I'm going to be there. And and so it made me think. But then I thought, when I was driving home, it's like, well, now if this was an astrology class, or one of my other little favorite topics, you know, something that's evolving myself and expanding who I am and helping me step into my purpose even more. I would have loved being there, and I would have gone the next day and the next day, and I would have had the energy, and I would have, and the food would have been great, and I mean, it's so it all gets down to what is in our heart of what we want,
Yeah.
what feels good.
And I know that I really like my life where it is now overall, and there are no big goals. But a few years ago, I was starting a business. I wasn't really sure what the business would be. I know that I love working with people who are aging and our bodies, their bodies, my body, learning, being able to use what I've learned about my body and helping translate it to help people learn about their bodies and get more of what they want out of living in the physical world. And I paid a good amount of money for a business coach who was very good, but I wasn't sure of what the business was going to look like. I realized afterwards that I did not want to do an online business. The learning curve for all the tech stuff was way and above what I like to do. I want to be in my body moving. I don't want to be sitting in front of a computer figuring out what to tell my virtual assistant I need,
Right.
because that's only part of the learning curve. And then I also realized we both have worked as massage therapists, and there can be a lot of isolation working one-on-one. And I do not want to do anything like a business alone.
Well, neither do I, and
Yeah.
that's why I've partnered with Jackie.
And it's amazing how, we've known each other for years, and it sort of has grown organically,
Yeah.
which is what makes me think of when I want it now. If I would have gotten my business going and I would have had customers and figuring it out and had everything together, I would probably be going down a road
A different road.
and one that wouldn't have really made me happy, because I am a physical person, I'm a body person, and I would have been doing much more outside that realm. So accepting that,
Now, he wants what he wants when he wants it, and he demands it.
and of course we give it to him, and he's got this whole support system.
Yes.
It's almost like a cat with its staff.
Yes. Yeah, he believes he's got staff.
But I think that it was all, some people could say it's humiliating, spending all this money and time, and then I'm a quitter. But I
Right.
recognized what I did not want. And it was
And
worth it.
that's important.
It was worth it to me to say, okay, this was a learning experience, and I did learn from it, and let me feel things out. And I love having a life that's simple, having a garden that I can work in, making a point to see friends, to spend time with friends who I have, and seeing where that goes. And so with Elaine and I, we've been, doing a number of things, small things, but when we started working together on
Look.
our book, and then finding that we mesh in some really neat ways. We're very different, but we get each other.
I'm
And,
the analyst, and she's the one that goes deep.
and
Have
it's-
any questions you want to know about? Just ask Jackie. She'll take you down the little rabbit hole to the very bottom.
but in other ways, I'm the rational one, and you go deep. So there are different ways, because
Well, I go deep in a different direction.
yeah, but it's amazing how both of those things form this perfect X,
Yeah.
so that we go in the direction that we're comfortable when we are, but we meet at really important points. And it took time to let that be what it was, because we don't always recognize what something is just by looking at it or by feeling it out. We took our time with it. So if I would have gotten what I wanted when I thought I wanted it, because at the time I wanted it when I wanted it, but it just got overwhelming and it wasn't right for me.
Well, and I've been trying to build a business for buku years. I mean, I've always been a self-employed person. I don't know, I just
Mhm.
got marched to my own drum, and so, or my own tune, and so, but it's like I've had to learn, because things haven't fallen together like I wanted, that maybe there's a factor of timing, and maybe what would happen if I had gotten what I wanted, this is what Jackie was saying, that was I ready for it? Could I handle it? What if I had a business, a thriving reading, coaching, whatever business that I had, that I'm working towards, or I'd, written a bunch of number ones books, best-selling books, I mean, what if I had that already? What would my life be at? Could I handle it? And am I like emotionally and, I don't know, spiritually
Ah.
evolved enough to to not let it go to my head and to be able to integrate it and to appreciate it?
And would you have been sort of stayed in that place?
Well, yeah, that would be like my success. I'm going to stay right there because this is what worked.
Well, for years, when I was younger, I wanted to be in the Olympics.
Mhm.
I wanted to be an Olympic pentathlete. Now, I was an average athlete. I wasn't, the thing is, I didn't know that you needed a support system
Mhm.
to be a professional athlete. I thought you just did it on your own. I mean, I look back and I said, how, but a lot of people are taught that, and I picked that up however I did. But I look at some of the people who have dedicated their lives to being athletes, and I didn't have a strong sense of self-esteem. I had a lot of people fooled about my sense of self, but I didn't have a high self-esteem. So if I had become an Olympic athlete, I can imagine that my self-esteem would have been wrapped up in that,
Mhm.
and anything that went along with it. And we are so judgmental. I know I'm
Mhm.
so judgmental. We look back now at our beautiful, youthful bodies, and how did I ever judge myself for not being fit enough or not being beautiful enough? And so if I would have been stuck, if I would have done that, it would have been wonderful, and maybe I would have grown, maybe I would have had a wonderful support system. But just as likely, I would have been really insecure, and I might have turned out to be a bit more of a mess than I am now. So I look at that, and if with the physical problems, I don't have any great physical problems, but just the problems that come with aging, the challenges, physical challenges that come with aging, would it have been more difficult for me to take them in stride
Right.
and to learn from them as
Well-
I'm doing now?
Well, something I noticed with a lot of people is that it's very easy to get caught up in identifying yourself. Your self-identity is caught up in what you're doing
Mhm.
or what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
And that in itself is like limiting. It's like putting you in a box. It's like,
Yes,
I've
putting
accomplished
ourselves in a
this,
box, yeah.
I've done this is what I can do, and this
Yeah.
is what I'm capable of doing. And we don't look outside the box to see what our higher potential is. And that, I think that's part of what we're working at is
Yeah.
in the coaching that we're putting together is to peek out of the box and say, oh, I can do that, and I can do that, and let's try doing that,
And that just reminds me of my mantra for the past few years, which I don't necessarily follow. Just because I can does not mean I should.
Right.
So the discernment that comes, especially with age, say, oh, I can do that, or I can do that differently. It's like, okay, but is it what draws my soul? Is it
Is it worth
is it
doing?
something that's exciting to me?
Yeah.
Or is it just, oh, look at all these things I can do that I haven't done? And that can become a rabbit hole of a different sort
Right.
altogether.
Right.
And I have a hard time because I still am fairly young and fairly active and fairly fit, not doing all those physical things that aren't necessarily what I feel like I should be doing to fulfill myself, or that are getting me where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to know when I'm calling BS on myself,
Mm-hmm.
or when I should be calling BS on myself, when I really want to do something, when I'm doing something because I should, because I'm doing something because I can, all those things. And it's like, okay, so don't worry about it. Sit back, do what you do, learn from your mistakes, but we don't have to commit. I think you should commit to the floor, Scooter. I'm going to put you on the floor. There we go, boy. You got places. So, yeah, it's getting what we want now. Sometimes patience
Yeah.
and acknowledging that's a big one. What do I have now?
That's true. Because actually, we might already have what we want, it's just in a different form. Or it may
absolutely.
be partly what it's like, maybe, it's like, okay, let's use the example I want complete freedom to be able to write my book and to study and learn and be able to share the information I'm learning. Well, in my I want what I want right now, this, like, I got complete freedom. Well, actually, the reality of it is, I'm probably 50% the way there already.
Mhm.
But it's so easy to say, I don't have this and I want it, when instead of acknowledging what I actually have.
That's so true, and I think that's very true in love as well, in
Yeah,
romance.
that's true.
Often when we don't have a partner, we want one,
Hmm.
because we imagine what it would be like, the best of all worlds.
And if we do, we complain about it.
Absolutely. And to stop at either point and say, what is good? What do I have now? And what have I chosen? Because
Yeah.
sometimes the partners we complain about, I mean, usually we've chosen them. I don't think either of us are in slavery to our partners. Why have I chosen them? What is good about this? Whether it's what I'm getting out of it, what I'm giving, what I'm learning. And then, especially we look at why we feel we're on this earth. And a lot of it is about learning.
Mm-hmm.
So can we learn from being single? We can certainly learn from being single.
Mm-hmm.
And
partners sure push your buttons and make you
They
speeds
do.
up the learning process.
and friends, especially as we get older, there's not a mandate to be mating,
Mm-hmm.
either from our bodies or from society. Friends are amazing,
Mm-hmm.
are amazing partners, not
Mhm.
to partner with romantically, but necessarily,
To
but
share
yeah, to
ideas.
share ideas and to share activities and to be on the same page without that. I don't know. I mean, some people talk about soulmates, but there's always some kind of competition between partners, whether it's who needs more attention.
Mm-hmm.
When you're married to an older partner, or when you're with an older partner, that older partner necessarily has some needs. So yeah, there are just all these things, but to stop and say, okay, I chose this,
Mm-hmm.
and what is challenging about it, and is that big a deal?
Mm-hmm.
Is it taking away from my life?
Well, if it's a big enough deal, then you have to make a choice to do something about it. Make a change. And often, and a lot of the times, what we complain about is actually something we have very much in our power. And it usually has something to do with not speaking up for what we want and setting
Yeah,
boundaries and claiming
yeah.
our personal space. And
Yeah.
so these are all factors that go into suddenly you blow up and say, I want what I want because I want it right now. And
Yeah,
I want what I
yeah.
want because I want it. It's like, for no good, there's no reason. It's kind of like an irrational response.
And I think it's often a misdirection.
Yeah, it's just a reaction to other needs that haven't been addressed.
And I think learning to discern what we do have, what we've chosen to have, what we've chosen to avoid, and maybe we've chosen to avoid something that would get us what we want right now for a very good reason.
Right. Maybe as part of it. And the other thing I've had to learn, it's like the other side of not getting what you want is there's a certain amount of disappointment. So it's like you plan and you visualize and you plan and you hope and you wish and you don't get it. And you get really bummed about the whole thing. And so then, but then there's usually a reason. So then what that is an opportunity to go back and look at yourself and say, okay, where was I out of alignment? Is this just a bad question? Is this just a bad thing that I don't want? Is it not serving me somehow? Or do I need to not be so attached to the way it's going to show up and let it come to me in the way that Spirit has in mind that is actually better for me? I did this when I was getting a divorce. I wanted to get together with this person so bad, so bad. But it just didn't work out. So the person I got together with, I was not quite so gung-ho with, but it turned out that he was actually the best choice. And he's been my best teacher. Challenged me a lot, made me have to learn a lot, but he's been my best teacher, and I'm just so totally grateful to him. I can't, there's no words for it.
I resonated with your talking about being disappointed when you invest in something happening right now.
Yeah.
And years ago, once in a great while, I'll play a lottery game.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, I used to play, once a month or whatever, but I noticed when I didn't win, now I didn't need the lottery,
Mm-hmm.
my life has been good, but when I didn't win, I'd spend time being disappointed.
Yeah.
And in my life, 50 seconds being disappointed is too much time wasted being disappointed. And so I stopped playing the lottery because I can be disappointed without it.
Right.
And also, the energy that I put into what would I do if, what of that can I do now
Right.
without that happening?
Right.
And I think often when we know what we want, we can say, well, what about it can I do now?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we think the road is straight and the road is
Mm-mm.
not straight. We start doing it, we go,
Mhm.
oh, I need to curve here. Oh, I need to go there.
Well, if I just learn this little thing, and then the best way to wait for what you want is to follow your heart and just to put the intention out there. Okay, this is what I want, and then almost like walk away. This gets into trust, which trust is a real tough one. But it's like then you just have to go do things that you like to do. I mean, if you like to cook, go do some cooking. If you want to travel, go travel. Go. If you want to study something, go study something. If you whatever it is that speaks to you, that enlivens you, and then pretty soon all of a sudden you realize, oh, I'm getting what I wanted. I didn't have to work for it.
Yeah. And I think that is so true to follow your path of doing what you enjoy, doing what you love. Not that there's not a lot of work in that often,
Yeah,
but
a
you
lot
also,
of energy expended.
it's much
yeah.
more likely that you will recognize that you're getting what you want, that you are
Right.
where you wanted to be,
Right.
without having to sit back and wait and grunt and grumble that it's not happening, it's not happening, it's not happening, I want
Right.
it, why isn't it happening? Spend your time doing something else and things show up. Sometimes it's as much as a change in attitude and appreciating that you have what you want. And sometimes doing what you want draws the people and the circumstances
Uh-huh.
that you need to get what you want.
Right.
But,
Well, it's funny too, because then, you talked about moaning and groaning about why you haven't gotten what you wanted. And I just recently, so here we are, we're working with Karen and the service that she's providing, and we hadn't heard anything about it, It's like it's just months have been going by, and so I emailed all the people that are part of the group, and I said, hey, I complained. And so then it got back to Karen and her team, and they sent an email and said, oh, it looks like we haven't been communicating with you. This is all the things we've been doing, we've got all your concerns addressed. So, but so I felt really guilty about rocking the boat, stirring the pot. So that's kind of like a weird, reaction or response to, it's like, I wanted to get some action going, that's my fire, and it wasn't moving fast enough, and that's fire, and, but, without the communication piece, I didn't know,
yeah.
and so that's another element that fits into this.
And when,
Whole piece.
sometimes things don't match up, they don't line up like we
Right.
think they should. But I think, I try, and it's tough not to feel guilty when
Yeah.
you feel like you've overstepped or when you've made someone uncomfortable
Right.
that wasn't appropriate.
Right,
But sometimes the result is just, of course.
right,
And we haven't necessarily bummed somebody out,
no.
so.
Catch Barbara before she comes back.
Okay.
Just a minute.
You
I'll be
put
right
on
back.
pause? Okay,
Oh, can you pause it?
I don't know. Okay, maybe I don't see a pause. Okay. So
You
anyway.
can talk.
I can talk, I can talk. So it's like I teach Tai Chi a few times a week, and I tell my students that, they say, when am I gonna get this? I just can't remember all of these things, and when is it gonna feel fluid? And I tell them, I don't know, but we can keep doing it till we die. We don't have to get it. There is no rule about now you're perfect. because my joke is that no one has Tai Chi or martial art right until their master dies. Because we're all aspiring to how somebody else does it. And we're learning ourselves. We change every day and we're learning ourselves. So it's very important to be patient with ourselves. And I think that is one of the most difficult lessons that we have to learn in life, is to be patient with ourselves and to not judge ourselves because we're not somewhere that we think we should be, doing something, having something. We're all perfectly fine the way we are. So,
Including Scooter.
see, Scooter knows. Scooter's 1,000% aware that he's fine where he is. And that he gives Elaine a chance to hide behind him.
There
That's-
we
yes.
go. Yes, he's my guard dog.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
yes, you have to be quiet now. He sees somebody, he wants to go say hi. So, so I guess to summarize this, the whole concept of, you know, I want what I want when I want it now, when you have that feeling, is to take a look. Go inside, stop for a minute and take a look and see, you know, what's driving this need. Is there something that I can do right now that's in other words, it's like that's an external expression of something that's internal that hasn't been,
Right.
a need that hasn't been met. And so what can I do? And, you know, and then to try and step back one step further and say, if I don't get this now, or maybe if it comes in another form, can, you know, how does it fit into my life? I mean, am I ready for it? I mean, is it something that I can handle right now? Maybe the best timing is it needs to be a little bit later, after I have gained some piece of wisdom that clicks together.
Mhm.
You know, I mean,
Well,
it's like
and-
timing.
yeah.
There's divine timing in getting what you want.
Even in, for instance, if you're a parent and you have a child who desperately wants something and you want to provide something for that
Right.
child, and that would make that child's life more comfortable, whether it's socially or physically or whatever, and you simply can't afford it, for instance,
Right.
or it's not available. And you're feeling awful because you can't do this for your child, and it's so important, and you start resenting the world because you're in this
Can't do it.
situation and the world's not fair. Step back and say, okay, what is really important to my child? What am I giving my child? Does my child know they're loved?
Right.
Does my child know that they're supported? Does my child understand that I am as frustrated as my child is
Mm-hmm.
over this? Those things are, so what is really necessary is it really necessary to have that thing to provide? Or are there external factors that we're putting primary over what's really going on?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's what we call getting back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
You ever hear of that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can do that emotionally, we can do that spiritually, we can do that financially. We expect a lot more in this day and age than we did 50 years ago.
Right.
Those of us
Well,
who are alive
there's
then know that, but it's,
There's so much available. I mean, you watch TV and you
yeah.
hear the news, and I mean, you know, and watch people. And
Whether
they
it's love, whether it's money,
Or-
whether it's,
have material things, cars, you know, whatever.
yeah,
I mean, it's like there's a lot of pressure on us to want things.
social status, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
Yeah, social
Yeah.
status.
And to step back and say, what do I really want? What would social status bring me? Well, people would like me. Are there any people who like you now?
Right.
I mean, that's a question to ask.
So, yeah.
Why are these people liking you better than the people who like you now liking you?
Right.
Wow. I mean, that's a question to ask our kids. Why do
Uh-huh.
you want to be part of the popular group?
Right.
You know, and then we have to ask
Well,
ourselves.
because everybody wants to be accepted and to belong.
But if we're accepted and belong with the nerds or the outcasts or who our friends,
Right.
why would it be any different to be liked by another group that actually doesn't suit us as well, that is
Right.
not as supportive and is not
Right.
as integrative with,
Yeah.
you know, with who we are?
So I guess the whole bottom line is when you come up with this expression, you know, about I want it and I want it now, it's like a wake-up call. It's an opportunity to go within and say, what else is going on here?
Yep.
And I guess really that's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line. Glad we got that out of our system.
Yeah,
Not that it's cured, not that it's cured. I'm sure this will pop up somewhere else, like Scooter's little head.
yeah,
But I think we can breathe easy now that we've talked about that.
right.
Alrighty,
And so we'll talk about something else next week.
bye.
Bye. Push finish, you gotta push finish. You gotta push it again.